I'm falling asleep and I'm having to relive me being belittled for my accomplishments. My past accomplishments that had nothing to do with my adopted family. Now my mother and father wanted to take away a medal that I earned. I earned this trophy at age like, I don't know, whenever I was in St. Anne's. I was in a St. Anne's home. This is a home for orphans, and I was brought to a swimming pool to learn. I was learning how to swim. This is before I met my adopted parents. This is when I was with other foster homes. But the main big home with the other kids I was living at brought us on this freezing day across the way. They had us walk to this other location. I don't know why we went from one building to another building, but it was cold. And we went into the swimming pool and we were learning how to swim, and I did better than the other kids. There was like, I don't know, we had a whole line of kids. There was maybe 10 more kids. We were all having to follow a line to get to the pool area, and we had to go from, I'm guessing it was a car or a van, but we had to go from one building to another building to get into the pool area. We got into the building where the pool is located. We got into the pool after changing and doing everything we had to do. Um, and they taught us how to swim, or mostly. I also took classes through my adopted parents later. But this was my first experience with swimming, really, was through St. Anne's. Now, I did so excellent that they gave me this little brass medal. They're pretty common. They're not nothing special. They're dime a dozen little brass medals, and they just put your initials on the back. That's all. They just put your initials on the back. They also had a lot of these medals and rewards in St. Anne's for when you did better than the other kids. They had a reward with a certificate that you would get if you're the best kid of the month, and you could go out and spend like $10 at a toy store. These things were happened, and a woman, I can't remember. I know she wasn't one of. She might have been one of the staff, but she was more of an instructor. A pool instructor handed me this brass medal, put my initials ZG, because at this time my name was Zachary Greenhalgh. This was before I was adopted. This was something that was given to me for earning it. I did better than the other kids in the orphanage. A brass little dime a dozen medal, but it meant something to me. And I got my initials, ZG, on it. And I kept on to that. And I carried on to that as well as a box of baseball cards with me to my foster homes. Now, guess what? This is where it gets fucked up. That's a great memory. That's a great memory. I learned how to swim. I did better than the other kids. I got a brass medal with my initials in green Sharpie ZG. Or maybe it was faded over time because it got dark over time. But I remember it being green at first. And this was something I earned, and I carried it with me from foster home to foster home, as well as a box of baseball cards that was also from this. Now, here's where it gets fucked up. My foster family, what became my adopted family, that's Patricia Newell, was my mother that gave me that name, and my father. Well, I'm not gonna. I shouldn't have given her name in the first place. I'm just um, talking from the heart right now. But they came in and tried to take my medal away and tell me that it was somebody else's medal. I stole my own medal, and even though it had my original name on it, they tried to take it away and say it was some African American kid's. I couldn't possibly be mine. It had to be this African American's medal. And that was so hurtful, that a thing that I earned. I'm trying to show you something I earned in my, I guess you call it an orphanage, St. Anne's. And I had my hair freeze on the way back too, when we were so wet that when we walked back to the orphanage, or when we walked back to the van to go to the orphanage, my hair started to freeze outside in the cold. This was an indoor pool, by the way. We were just going from one building to another. I did so well that they gave me a medal. This was a staff member from St. Anne's. This wasn't, I haven't really met I haven't foster or adopted parents too much. I'm going through many foster homes. And I get my name on the back of it. I carry it with me everywhere. I keep it in my room in the damn St. Anne's and all these homes. I keep it in my room. I look at it and go, I earned that. And then I get to these foster parents, my now adopted parents, and they belittle my accomplishment. They tell me it couldn't possibly be my medal, and they tell me basically that it's somebody else's, and they try to take my medal away from me, something I earned, and tell me that I must have stole somebody else's medal or something, and they make up this big story and these lies about it and try to take it away. You know how messed that up that is to do to a child? He accomplishes something at an orphanage. He has this medal that he carries with him close to his heart, and then you try to take it away from him and belittle the kid. And you can't even be like, good job. Oh, good job that you did that. No, you take away his medal, you belittle him, you tell him it's stolen. What is wrong with these people's mind where that was done to me? As an adult, I've moved on. Screw them. You know, if my mother wants to take away my accomplishments that I earned, fine. But they don't know shit about those orphanages. I got those baseball cards there. I got a round little, like, I don't know, like, it was like a copperish or brass little dime a dozen medal that had like a swimming guy with a cross on it. And I got that from this instructor at a swimming class while I was at St. Anne's before I settled down with my foster parents, what became my adopted parents. But instead of trying to support me or acknowledge my accomplishments, they try to take something so close to me that literally there was only like two things that I had from that orphanage that were mine. That's a medal that I won at a swimming place and a box of cards. That those are the only, and a Lego set. I had a box of Legos that I earned with a certificate that said I was the best kid of the month. Those are the things that I earned in that orphanage before I went into foster care and met my foster parents. The box of cards was thrown away by my father later in life. They took away the medal and said it couldn't have been mine and said it must have been some African American kids and belittled my accomplishment. Now, this is something that had my original name and initials typed on it and not in my handwriting, in somebody else's handwriting. And the fact that I'm trying to show this medal to them and say, hey, I want to tell you about how I earned this medal. And instead, they totally just hurt me and try to take my property away and say it must be some other kids and they want to go give my medal to somebody else. Do you know how messed up that is to do a kid to a kid who literally had no parents? He earned this in a swimming class. I also earned that those baseball cards were given to me as a Christmas present with every other kids that were in that orphanage as well. Staff was leaving, gave us all Christmas presents, and it was those boxes. I was maybe 4 years old. The medal was at the same time at St. Anne's. And these things are being taken from me. They're being stolen from me. I'm being belittled. My accomplishments are being called thefts, and they don't want to acknowledge any of the real stuff I did in life. They want to twist things to, oh, you must have stole that medal, and then they're going to go tell everybody that I stole my own medal. You know how ridiculous that is to do to a child? And they don't. They don't want to realize what they were doing to me was wrong and it affected me. Now that I'm an adult, I can deal with it. Screw it. It was a damn dime a dozen medal. But what my father and mother said about that medal and did to me as a child, that's the part that I have to get over and deal with. And that's not a big deal with the medal, but the drugs, the extra Epicac, there's so many other crazy things. And that's what makes it hard. I had a good memory. I earned a medal at a pool. I remember the girl who gave it to me, or lady, or adult, or staff, or whatever you want to call her. I remember crossing to get it. I remember swimming. I remember being freezing from swimming, coming back. I remember being in the orphanage holding that medal to my heart. I remember literally having it in my room and hanging it and protecting it from the other kids from stealing it, like hiding it under the mattress or trying to keep it from other kids taking it. I remember bringing it from foster home to foster home. That medal was something that was truly mine that I earned. And then I try to share that with my new foster family or my adopted family, and they literally try to take my medal away, call it stolen, belittle me, and even though it has my name and initials written in somebody else's handwriting, and I'm trying to tell them how that goes back to the orphanage, and I'm giving them information to try to describe that they're wrong and that you really need to, not take my medal that I earned away. They want to continue telling other people that this is a stolen medal. And then now I'm 31 years old. I don't give a fuck about the medal. I don't. But what I do care about is that these things are wrong and they need to be acknowledged as wrong. You do not belittle a kid's accomplishments. You do not drug them for Social Security money. You do not give them full bottles of Epicac. You do not twist their thinking. You do not try to brainwash them into a certain way of thinking that is wrong. You do not tell them to give other kids medication. And this is what fucked me up for so many years. Luckily, I've identified this. There's nothing wrong with me wanting to share my accomplishments with my parents. There was nothing wrong with me earning that medal. There was nothing wrong with me carrying that medal to my heart. It was an accomplishment. It was something I did. Now, it wasn't no big reward. It was just something that was handed to me with my initials written on the back. They just picked it up and said, "You did the best today. Here you go." That's all it was, but still, I was the best. I did the best out of all the other kids in that swimming class. Now, we're only 4 or 5 year olds. Keep that in mind. They're just trying to influence us to want to do better. And they had spelling bees too with rewards like that and lots of stuff like that in the orphanage. When I was in the orphanage, they did have classes. They did have stuff like that they wanted to do with you. And sometimes it was a medal for a swim class. Sometimes it was a bag of crayons and stuff to sit in a field. Sometimes it was a basketball. It could be anything. But I earned a thing of Legos. I got a big special box of cards from one of the staff, while everybody else got the small box. I got the big box. I'm not quite sure why, but I kept that big box of old baseball cards forever. And I got a medal from a swim class. Those were the main items I earned from my orphanage that I held close to myself. I earned that, as well as there was a certificate that went with the box of Legos. But the box of Legos was something that no other kid was able to get because they didn't get the Kid of the Month reward to go get them. So this is what I was able to hold close to me while living, in an orphanage. No parents, no other supporters, nothing. And then when I finally go through foster care and I meet a foster parent that wants to adopt me and I try to share my accomplishments with them over and over and over and over, I would try to share my accomplishments. But that was the mistake. I shouldn't have given I should have felt good for my own accomplishments like I do now. Because sharing my accomplishments with my family was the biggest mistake I ever made. Made me feel awful. And I don't have to feel awful about my accomplishments. I don't. Even though my father and mother loved making me feel awful about doing good things. Oh, I was the top of my class for researching stocks, and I'm trying to share that with you. Oh, no. You're going to make me feel awful. Let's go back further. Oh, I helped out this person? No. I don't get the. No, something else must have happened. I went over to a friend's house and asked for permission? No, I must have ran away. You go further back? Hey, you were top of your class on swimming and you got this medal in the orphanage? No, you must have stole it. You must belong to the African American kid. Let's take that away from you. Um, these are the type of mistakes that made me feel bad. I shared something with my family and they turned it around and made me feel terrible about it. And the medications made my body rot. The twisting of my mind, I didn't know how to undo it. I didn't know why I was getting this type of feeling from accomplishing a swim class. I didn't know why when I did a good deed, and I thought I did good. I mean, I have 3 teachers. I got people telling me I'm doing good, but I share that with my mother or father, and they twist it into something bad. I don't understand this. Even when the teachers would send home good notes, my mother would send home, "What do you mean?" in a hole, and the teachers would be scratching their heads. Zach, can you explain this to us? Oh, my mother turns good things into bad things. I forgot to tell you that. And then they would go, "Oh, well, we better call her because this note doesn't sound good. We were giving you compliments yesterday on that note. You have a call. We showed you that." I said, "I know." My mother likes to turn and look for little flaws and turn it into some big bad thing. I know you were giving me compliments in that note last night, but my mother was screaming about it anyways. It didn't matter. If I got a medal for swimming, I must have stole the medal, and there would have been a big issue, and they would try to take my accomplishment away from me. It was messed up. It was, and I'm over it. If I accomplish a good thing like helping somebody or saving a life, I know I did it. God knows I did it. I don't need to tell my family about it because they're just going to belittle it, take it away, call me a liar, twist it up into some made up story in their head, and it'll hurt me because I'm like, really? I do something great or good or just top of my class or something, and they want to turn it into something bad or hurtful. So I've learned that the best thing is not sharing my accomplishments with my family, just acknowledging them myself. As a kid, I acknowledged them myself, but then I would share them with my family, and then I would feel bad after sharing them because my mother and father would turn it into some evil thing. So now I just acknowledge it myself. I did something good. I made a difference. Great. That's all I need. If I help somebody, like I spend 2 hours helping a lady rake her leaves that was elderly and was hurt, she was not able to bend down, and she's like, I don't know how I'm gonna, or if I mowed her lawn for her and I don't even know her and I don't charge her, I just go, no, 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 that's all right. I know I did a good deed. I don't need to tell anybody about it just to get hurt by my family. They're very good at that. Not when I say my family, I really mean my father and his second and third wives. That they're very good at making a good thing into a bad thing and making up their own story, and it really hurts sometimes. So I just know better now. I know better to share good accomplishments with my family, and that's messed up that I can't do that. Even at the age of 5 or 7, when I'm trying to show them a medal from my orphanage saying, look at this medal. Oh no, let me take that away from you. You must have stolen that. That must be the African American's kid. And then they want to give away my medal. Something I earned in St. Anne's a orphanage. That's messed up, wouldn't you say? I would say so. Do you think that giving a kid a overdose and then not properly dealing with it is not okay? I would think so. Do you think giving more than the recommended dose, or as my mother said, quote, extra Epicac, do you think that's okay? I wouldn't think so. These actions are very psychotic. They're problematic and they cause trauma in my childhood, teenage years, my 20s, and now I'm finally over it and getting the help I need, or trying to get the help I need. A lot of what they did also interferes with me getting proper medical care, and I might even end up getting seriously hurt or killed before I finally get the actual proper seizure medications and get the proper help for the type of mental disorder and PTSD I got. What's ADHD, PTSD, and light anxiety, and then a neurological disorder that's in my nervous system. That's what's actually wrong with me, not that anybody really cares. And the PTSD and anxiety comes from my mother. My mother's psychotic behavior and what she did to me. That's what the doctors were trying to tell me. They were telling me that there must be more, there must be more, there must be something at the root with you and your mother. But I never really processed it too much. I knew there was something wrong, but I didn't know how to describe it all. I always did speak up about her drinking, her meds, the extra Epicac that night. I spoke up, but I didn't know what it all meant together. I just knew that something was happening bad to me. My body was feeling worse. When I shared like that medal or a good true accomplishment, I had my medals and things taken away, and I didn't know what the hell that was about. I didn't know why my mother held me back in first grade, even though the teachers wanted me just to go forward. My mother was the only one wanting me to repeat a grade. I didn't understand any of these behaviors, why she wanted to make things more difficult for me. She's putting me in ballet when I really have a neurological disorder and I'm having problems talking and moving my body. She wants to treat that with ballet. These decisions aren't making any sense to a child. But as an adult, okay, I know what was going on. She was trying to prepare herself and me for a Social Security case that she could definitely get money for, and then when I was 18, just drop the money and send me out. As well as she had a mental illness. She definitely had a lot of these pre notions that she was gonna make me look a certain way, and she wanted to push that narrative that she had in her head, no matter what it meant. And it was a very evil thing to do. Just because you want to have your life easier does not mean you can make somebody else's life harder by crippling their body. That is really bad. Or it's crippling their mind or twisting their mind or saying and doing things that are just psychotic. This is not right to do to a child. As an adult, I know what right and wrong is. And out of what the things I said, I think you can clearly see that. I know these things are wrong. You don't belittle somebody's accomplishments. You do not drug them. You do not lie about them to get money. These are very easy things to not do. You don't hurt somebody. You don't hit them. You don't drug them. You don't exaggerate at the doctor and get them improper medical care. You don't try to slip them pills. You don't try to give them extra of any pharmaceutical. You do not tell them it's okay to give medication to other people. These are very clear signs. I mean, these are very clear no-nos. They're very clear. You don't do these things. And my mother, remember, she was a nurse, and she was in her 50s or 60s through most of this. So she knew better. But she had a reason for doing it, and it's very clear what the reason was. Social Security, attention. She was too old to really spend the time with a hyper child as well. So sedating me with pills made her job easier. She didn't want to have to spend 2 hours watching a childhood show of Mr. Freeze. Here's some pills. He'll fall asleep. We can have our drinks and change the channel. Very simple, right? Not when your kid has an overdose, though, and you don't want to bring him to the emergency room. That's where the problems come into play. And she didn't think that through. She thought, here's some pills, we'll make him go to sleep, and we're too old, that's all. Well, we'll just keep on drugging him to sleep. And that's not okay. That's the problem right there. You cannot try to drug me and then get a disability case based off of that. That's not okay. And I know that. But my father still thinks all of this was okay. That's the problem. He still thinks everything that was done to me is perfectly fine. If he believes me or not, there's enough that was in front of him. There's enough where if he actually, well, paid any attention to himself or anything that was going on, then he knows it's enough. How about your wife she admitted right to you that she was taking my Vicodin from my bottle in her closet. What does that mean? What does that mean, all these ideas that she had that were okay? She can take my pharmaceuticals, she can drink and blame it on me, she can give me extra medicines. I go to the doctor and I explain this horrible overdose that I went through, and she calls it an allergy but never looks into it. She never brought me to the emergency room that night. What does this really kind of give you a picture of? A crazy person, a person with a mental illness, or somebody who's pushing a narrative for a reason like getting money from Social Security. And that's not okay. And like I said, I'm over it, but it doesn't mean it's still not going to kill me. It still doesn't mean I can go out and drive. It doesn't mean my life is going to get any easier. I just know how to deal with it mentally. But physically, I'm still falling apart no matter what I do. Until I get proper medical care, I'm going to continue having seizures. My head and skin will continue needing stitches. My ankles will continue getting shattered. And cars will continue to almost run me over. I'll continue to have to push the limits in the cold of what my body can do. Um, there is no end to my pain just because I processed all this. Yeah, I can move forward with my mental health, but my physical health will keep on going less and less down the hole. My physical health will go down the hole until somebody admits that this was going on, or until doctors start actually giving me proper diagnoses and treatment.